Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another beautiful evening here with Brian Schaefer again. And tonight's topic we're blessed to delve further into is the ADARA meditation, but we're going to take it to a deeper level than when was that? Was that a couple of probably about 2 weeks ago now? We did the ADARA, wasn't it, Brian? I think.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, don't ask me. It's all been a blur, so
That's all right.
it's
So for
probably,
anyone,
yeah.
if this happens to be your first time that you've jumped on to listen to Brian, we have covered the basics of the ADARA meditation in another call. So if things are a little bit, they're going over top of your head or anything like that, we do have the video available to watch from the last call. And if you happen to stumble across this once it's posted out there in internet land and it's gone viral and this message is spreading out to the millions like it's inevitable that it will, Brian Schaefer is obviously an author, an inspirational speaker, a philosopher, and a holistic natural therapist. His book out there is The Nature of Life, How to Remain at Peace in the Modern World. It's a 600-page textbook, which basically, as you can see by the thickness, it covers anything and anything that you can think of to live a peaceful existence in the modern world, no matter what's surrounding us at present. Now, the ADARA meditation is one of the branches and the arms of that takes things to a deeper level, and we're excited to obviously have Brian sharing that tonight and actually having some practical application, I believe, tonight, Brian.
Yeah, well, that's the plan. But I actually had a rather interesting day, and as a result of that, I got a lot of inspirations. And like I said last night, I have the extremes of opinions. Some people say I should structure the material so it's more educational. Some people like the fact that when I'm just in a flow, ranting on about something, they like that. And I like to have PowerPoint presentations because I tend to digress, and it keeps me on track and keeps me getting through the material so I can transfer the information across to people. But me being who I am, I get very bored very quickly, and I've been doing this a long time, like I said, and I'm always trying to find new ways of breaking things down into its simplicities and being able to explain the purity of what I'm talking about. And today I've had some inspirations, and as a result of that, I'm going to share those inspirations tonight and still endeavor to try and share what initially set out to share. But what I've decided to share tonight, I actually haven't shared before, right? So keep that in mind, just bear with me, because it's a bit like trying to make it into a simpler and simpler story where people can actually relate to it without getting upset or aggravated by anything I say. And as you know, like, I don't mind rocking the boat and tipping the boat over. And the reason why is because I don't see anything actually working to empower people. And I'm not saying that from my perspective. I'm asking people, are you feeling empowered? Are you at peace? And they say no. And that's despite them being a practitioner or a mentor or whatever in their life, whatever their role is, as well as their own personal practices of meditation, doing qigong or whatever. They still seem to miss getting to the point of peace, which is, everybody agrees, is our natural state. So if what we're sharing isn't effective in getting us to the natural state, that simply means we have to have the humility to just say, time out, this is not working. Let's reevaluate things and see if we can work out where we're missing the point. It's not always missing the point. Some techniques work brilliantly for some people, but when we aren't honoring the laws consciously, then it becomes like piñata or pin the tail on the donkey. We're just not sure whether what we're going to do is going to be effective for us. And like I said, I've been doing this a long time, talking to a lot of people who have been doing it just as long. And, they've been practicing different techniques of meditation for 20 or 30 years, and they're still not by their own admission, this is not my judgment, but by their own admissions, they're still not at peace within themselves. They're still not clear within their thoughts. And this is where, when I was in India and spent time with the yogis and the masters, they were absolutely emphatic that I be just as emphatic about how things are black and white. Those of you that were on here last night will appreciate how everything is black and white. And this is where, when the more you embrace that, this is where I talked about it last night, the more you accept that it is black and white, the more you'll be at peace, because you won't be doing the mental gymnastics, trying to figure out what's right and wrong, good and bad, and whether it's individually right for you. If you know how to tune inwards, you'll know exactly what you need to do in each moment, where you need to go, who you need to spend time with. You'll be in that flow of guidance where you're answering the beckoning. And this is where we're going to go tonight. So, I've got my little mascot again here. I've got Petals on my lap. Everybody who hasn't met Petals, you have to meet Petals. She's an absolute little darling. This is Petals. So she's a little Devon Rex. So I've got my friend here at the moment. She's just done my hair and makeup. Just kidding. And so Petals she always like sitting on my chair, on my lap, or on my table. So, and I've got the aircon wicked up tonight. So hopefully I don't get as uncomfortably hot as I did last night. Last night it was probably about 30 degrees, and today it's only what, 24. So it's a bit more comfortable. Yeah, so I should be a bit more of a flow tonight. So, yeah, so what we're going to cover is the material I'm about to share with you is going to help highlight the difference between what I'm sharing and what everyone else is sharing. And again, I'm not trying to be superior. I'm not trying to be one up on anybody. I'm just highlighting the exact differences between what everyone's sharing, and then being able to discern whether what that person's sharing is relative to you as an individual or not, relative to the stage that you're at, relative to your external circumstances, relative to your own personal state, right? There's different techniques that you'll be using at different stages of your life. So you can't just go staying with one when the nature of everything is going up levels, yeah? Just if you give a hands up with maybe through Mark or the messages, just how many people have listened to the previous one or attended the last ADARA, just so as I know how much to go into, what, just touch on.
Just put a why if you've listened. Yep. Yeah.
So, okay. So just how much I need to rehash what I've already covered. So it looks like the majority of people have. Well, that's good. So what that means is I can go into it a little bit faster. And so far I've only seen one no, yeah? So that's really good. So like, as you know, I don't like repeating myself. So if I can not repeat myself, then that gives me, it's more fun because I get to share more new material. So the main thing with the ADARA meditation is those six facilitation exercises. And you have to remember those 6 facilitation exercises help you change state so you can align and connect. And then it helps you deepen that connection. So you can keep going deeper and deeper into the nature of consciousness, right? So I touched on this story that I'm writing in my next book, which is it's a collection of short stories. And one of the stories is about a little flower. Once it blooms, it looks out into the world and goes, wow, but it gets prompted to go inwards. So the flower draws its attention back into itself and goes all the way into the tree and becomes the ground and so on. So without giving too much of that away, that's the difference between the conscious and the dualistic paradigm, which I talked about last night. So when people are looking out into the external world, yeah, it's obvious that everything is connected and there's ways that things feed into each other, but it's completely different when you're going inwards and you're connecting with all the forces and the intelligence creating the external one, right? So it's no different than like looking at your hand. If you're looking at your hand and you're seeing it and you don't actually have the pathways to know that that hand is you, right, then that you're not actually connected to that. But if you actually are able to go back in and feel that that is an extension of you, then that's awareness, right? So what happens is when you go back into the true inner experience, you connect with the intelligence, the awareness, the actual source of the consciousness that's manifesting itself in and through everything. And that's not just a theory and philosophy like a lot of people want to argue with me about. It's an actual direct awareness. And this is what I share with people if they're wanting to do the plant medicines and things like that. That's what plant medicines want to show you. They want to show you from consciousness, not just your interpretation of reality. All right, so what the ADARA meditation does, ADARA is the Sanskrit word for honor. It honors that everything's appropriate when it's appropriate. It doesn't dismiss anything, right? If you need to do a headstand and do some breathing exercises, fine, that's what you need to do. But if you need to sprint up a hill and then sit and do some breathing exercises with the visualization, that's what you do, right? So it's all embracing, all encompassing, and all inclusive, right? And that's the beauty of it. So this is where, like I said last time, my overall intent is to help everybody understand how ADARA meditation becomes the umbrella in which all the other techniques and branches of meditation stem from. Because, you know, if you're talking about Shivananda's methods of yoga and the transcendental meditation form of yoga, meditation, then you may or may not understand how they are different, and you may not understand how they're the same, right? But with the ADARA, it's immediately obvious when you look at any technique, whether it's a guided visualization and as disguised as a meditation, or whether it's an actual meditation practice, whether it's Kriya Yoga and the meditation within that. So once you actually are aware of those six facilitation exercises in relation to what I call the conscious and dualistic state. The conscious state was the session link top, the stillness, emptiness, silence, solitude, inwardness, openness, and nature. And then the expression of that. So you've got the conscious state has the conscious experience, the conscious expression. The dualistic state has the reactive interaction and the reactive reactive reaction sort of thing. So one's just perpetuating the dualistic paradigm, the other one's expanding in the conscious paradigm. So so that's the main difference, right? Is that if you understand the differences and you understand exactly what's being presented within it, then you'll know when it's appropriate, right? It's like what I said last night. Once you understand and accept that everything's appropriate when it's appropriate, being one of the laws, then you'll know when to apply, practice, or cultivate what you need to be able to either heal, to get yourself back to your natural state, or to be able to, what you need to apply and practice and cultivate to be able to grow towards your potential and purpose, right? So it's a very conscious and deliberate thing. This is not intellectual like a lot of people have accused me of being, right? If you study the theory of music, you're not being intellectual, right? If somebody's just being, if you live in an environment where everyone's just playing by ear, and you start to learn the theory of music and everyone accuses you of being intellectual, right? That's not appropriate, right? You can still honor the maths and the science of anything, right? And bring it into conscious awareness. And the real problem within that, and I didn't touch on this last night with the two paradigms, is the difference between the 81 intelligences that we've got, and I talk about that in my book, how there's 81 different intelligences and everybody has equal capacity to develop any and all intelligences, right? But intelligence has been mistaken in the dualistic paradigm for intellect. And that always usually involves an academic approach to things, right? And I talk about the different types of knowledge in my book as well, the 6 different types of knowledge. And so what we're doing is we're giving people the tools to be able to be consciously aware of exactly what they can and can't do. So a lot of people are practicing techniques which is actually well beyond them, right? So, if I talk to a guy who's smoking and he's meditating, right, you can't let that person continue down the path of that delusional thought that while he's filling his body with carcinogenic chemicals and overstimulating his body and nervous system with nicotine, that he's even capable of finding stillness, right? So that this is where you have to be brutally honest with it. So if people have got any stimulants in their system, it makes finding stillness impossible, right? This is why a lot of people stop liking me when I start talking about purity. And I was asked that question last night. What is purity? Internally, it's absence of selfishness, which is pure intent to love all, serve all. And externally, it's honoring everything as it's pure, as things appear in nature in its pure way. But there's another one beyond that as well. And it's pure creativity. That's the experience of just being pure, but pure creativity and pure togetherness and joyfulness in the sharing of that. So the first thing has to come, the internal purity and the external purity for each individual. And then once that state's anchored, then people can come together in that state. And that's what the ADARA is actually designed to do, is to help people understand exactly what's beneficial to them finding and maintaining that state, and to be consciously aware of what's detrimental to it, right? So the things that have come up to me today, let's have a drink, were I really need to highlight and hammer the point more about what's happening with other techniques, as opposed to what I'm sharing. So, somebody else wants to come online here. Sorry, everyone, I'll just share this. Alrighty. Yeah, so I've got a list of things I want to cover here tonight, so I'll start going through the list. So the first thing is with meditation, sorry, it's playing silly buggers on me. All right. So with meditation, like I said, it's either consciously helping you find the stillness, emptiness, and silence, or it's not. If it's not helping you find stillness, emptiness, and silence, and honoring, again, ADARA, honoring the fact that it is your natural state, then it's not serving you to live the truth. And if it's not honoring the fact that you need to be absolutely pure in your seeking of that state, then they're not serving you to live the truth either. It has to be pure. Like I said, the masters I spent time with, they said it was absolutely hilarious and tragic and unacceptable that somebody could be smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, having had bacon and eggs for breakfast, and be reading Eckhart Tolle, right? It's all negating itself, right? It has to be pure, vegan, whole, organic food, completely free of stimulants. And then
Sorry to interrupt, Brian.
Yeah.
Farah's actually asked a pretty good question, and you can keep on going where you are, but I think it's good to address.
Yeah.
She's just asked, with stimulants such as tobacco, would we include other medicines in that list that take us away from purity, such as hape or mushrooms, or doing plants? Example, iboga. Also, yeah, and also, what does he think about fasting as reaching purity? So,
all right, we'll cover that shortly. But first of all, it's actually getting to the point where I'm just going to have to do a Zoom talk on plant medicines and altogether, just as a single topic. Yeah. My friends are always at me. I've got to write a book on plant medicines, but just to basically silence all the critics and get everybody off my case, and just to spell it out black and white. I think I need to do just a Zoom call just to put it into context. I have spoken to probably, I'm guessing, about 700 people now who have done plant medicines of all different types and all different degrees. And I constantly get people coming to me with either really bad experiences, or they're overwhelmed with this grandeur about themselves having done it. And both are just as toxic as the other, right? And there's also, how to put this, I won't explain it, but Richard Grannon, that great psychologist in England, he did a fantastic talk about his experience with plant medicines, with ayahuasca. And it was absolutely brilliant relative to where he's at, right? But if he was to understand where I'm coming from with in regards to it all, it would be a completely different story, yeah? Completely different, to the point of being almost opposite, yeah? And but that's all relative. Again, it's relative to where he's at, relative to everyone, where everyone's at. But again, the charts that are behind me are all from the wall, on the wall. They're all from my book. And sorry, Petals is stretching and digging her claws in here. So when one of my friends did ayahuasca the first time, she said, "I know what your book is now." She said, "It's the entire map of consciousness, and it mapped out into a book." And she said, "That's what it is, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "It's the entire plant medicine experience condensed into a book." And I said, "It's exactly that. I've mapped the entire map of consciousness." And that bottom chart, this chart here is what I showed last night, the two paradigms chart. It's the entire map. You can tell exactly where your consciousness is going when you're meditating, right? So without going too much more into that, like I said, everything's appropriate when it's appropriate. There's an exact time when a person needs mushrooms. There's an exact time when they need San Pedro or peyote or ayahuasca. And this is where there's 3,456 energies and properties of foods and medicines when you look at the whole picture. And again, I go into that when I talk about the holistic vegan workshop that I do. So again, it's not intellectualizing it. If you know how to break it all down into its simplicity, there's 3,456 factors to consider as to whether it's appropriate or not. And the actual name of what we're talking about gives it away as well. It's plant medicine, right? The medicine has to be appropriate to the person relative to those factors. And most people will, actually I'll say everybody I've spoken to so far, isn't consciously aware of those factors, isn't consciously aware of what state they're in, what mental state they're in, what physical condition in, what stage of the journey they're at. And again, they're going into plant medicines with, like, doing piñata, hoping to get a good experience. And it either sits them on their ass, or it elevates their ego to some level of, self-aggrandizement that you can't even communicate with people anymore, right? So there's a sweet spot in the middle, which everybody seems to be overlooking. And I talk about this in all my materials, where people are missing the point. And I got this little friend here. She's getting a bit hot. So anyway, so I won't go any more into the plant medicines other than everything's appropriate when it's appropriate. If it's not appropriate, then it's disturbing your energies and it's going to block your ability to find stillness, right? And just so as you know, when I do go into this, there's a way of communicating with the plants that most people don't have that experience. And I'll explain it all when the time's right. But there's 6 questions that you need to be able to answer consciously in order to be able to be a shaman and to be worthy of serving the medicines. And there's 6 questions you need to be able to answer to be able to receive the medicines. And of all the people I've spoken to so far, not one person's answered any of those questions consciously. So that's an alarm bell for anybody. And that's why Richard Grannon's saying don't do plant medicines. And to an extent, what he's saying is true. But if you go into it with what I'm sharing, and you know exactly what it is you're dealing with, and exactly where you're at, and you exactly know how to navigate consciousness, it is the perfect medicine for the person where they're at, right? So again, some people have taken harpe and it's absolutely made them sick as a dog, right? When I've done harpe, it's just, I go straight back to source, right? I have no side effects from any of these things, right? So some people are just left reeling for ages afterwards, right? So yes, so if you're dealing with things without being consciously aware, and this is why I say to everybody, please do not do plant medicines until you've actually read and understood my book. A lot of people have read my book, done my events, and they're only seeing half of what I'm presenting, right? They're seeing the dualistic perspective of it, right? So until you can actually read this map behind me, this chart, and actually know exactly what it is, then you're not ready to navigate the plant medicine world, right? You're still stuck in duality too much. And the plant medicines want to take you out of that. Like I was saying yesterday, the plant medicines are at the zoo gate, beckoning you to come into the wilderness, right? But once you're familiar with the wilderness, it's actually your home, right? And so they want to welcome you home. But if you're going into it with an identity attached to a role, with all your story about all your traumas, forget it, right? It will help you deal with that so up to the point where it's necessary. But after that, what it connects you with is what I'm going to share with you through the ADARA, right? You don't need to do plant medicines to get you to the point of healing, right? It's good when you've got the right guidance. You can actually heal through plant medicines, but this is where the ADARA meditation steps in, right? Like I said, ADARA meditation is to help you heal back to your natural state. And your natural state is being able to grow from a place within yourself where you're able to maintain the stillness, emptiness, silence, solitude, inwardness, and the openness, which is where you're getting all your inward coming thoughts from. And from the openness, then you connect with the true nature of spirit, and then you go deeper into the true nature of the divine, which is oneness, bliss, and immortality. Right? So I might just, what was the other part of that question, please, Mark?
It was just about also, what does Brian think about fasting as a way of reaching purity?
Okay. Again, fasting is another topic which is well off the topic, but there's too many factors again, right? So you've got those 3,456 factors, and you have to understand a lot of it and about the energies and properties of food. And there's at least, of those factors, there's at least 15 things you need to be consciously aware of before you even go into a fast. Again, having spoken to thousands of people as a presenter and a practitioner, most people, I would say, are only aware of 3 of them, of 3 of the key 15 ones, right? And I'll probably do a Zoom talk on all that as well, I think, Mark.
Yeah, I was actually going to say perhaps we something similar to when you came down and did the holistic vegan, but an online version that covers the detoxification, the fasting strategies, and that sort of thing would be great.
Yeah, I'll actually, I just got to go and turn the aircon again. Just talk amongst yourselves for a sec.
No worries. Yeah, Farah. One of the talks that Brian's done is the one called the holistic vegan, which covers a lot about fasting, the energies and properties of food, and once you get to know Brian's work a little bit more in depth, you'll understand exactly where he's coming from and all that. So stay tuned.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just get very hot while I'm talking, and these little cats, because they're practically hairless, they've got a very high body temperature, and it's actually like a hot water bottle sitting on my lap. So even though I've turned it up, I've got to turn it up more. So you're just touching on this quickly because it is an essential part to a meditation, and it'll tie in nicely with what we're talking about. Fasting is, I've only really presented the 7 steps, but there's actually 10 steps to detoxification. And those 10 steps, you go through them in order, but you have to go through them 7 times. There's 7 cycles of those 10 steps over a 2-year period, right? So if I talk to somebody who's, and again, this is relative to ADARA meditation, so it's not really separate. If I talk to someone who's morbidly obese, smokes cigarettes, drinks coffee, eats meat, is addicted to porn, works too hard, drinks alcohol, and uses all the chemical shampoos and toothpastes and everything like that. The first time through, the first cycle, the first 10 steps would be very gentle, right? And then if I talk to somebody who's been vegan for 20 years, has done regular fasts and detoxes, and lives in a clean environment, stress-free, their first cycle through doing those 10 steps could be as intense as that first person's fifth cycle through, right? So again, a lot of people get very upset with me with the fact that there's no standard answer, and there's not, because people can't factor in what's necessary for a person who's in the obese, toxic state to a person who's in a pure state, in a natural environment, supportive environment, how they approach detoxification, right? And again, what is detox? This is actually important because it goes back to the topic of purity again, right? I put a question out online, I don't know how many years ago, and it pretty well went viral. And the question was exactly how do you purify something, right? And other than my two close friends, no one actually came up with the answer. And my friends know it because I've been drilling it into them for the last 15 years or something. So they knew the answer. But exactly how you purify something is to, first of all, get rid of the excesses, at the same time put back what's missing. Remember I was saying throughout the other events, I'm only focusing primarily on putting back what's missing, because when you put back what's missing, it balances out all the excesses, right? But to speed up detoxification and purification, you can consciously address the excesses, and you can also consciously access and deal with what's missing, right? This is all supposed to be part of the book that followed on from The Nature of Life, but I'm reconfiguring it to be a book that precedes The Nature of Life. So the idea is you use at least 6 different herbs to help detoxify the body, 6 different herbs or 6 different formulas, and then you use 6 different formulas to put back what's missing, like the restoratives. And if you're really smart and you use your God-given intelligence, you can get herbs that have a double action, and depending on what stage and what cycle you're in, right, you can get 6 herbs that actually purify and restore, right? But then if you've got a person who's at the first time through and they're really toxic, you can get 6 herbs or formulas that get rid of the excesses, that detox, and at the same time restore. And you get another 6 ones that primary action is to restore, but they have a secondary action that detox. So you've got 2 lots of synergy working together to either work faster or gentler over a slower period of time, but again, whatever's necessary. So this is where, when people tell me that they're meditating and they're full of Lynx deodorant, full of cigarette, alcohol, meat, it's hard not to laugh, right? Because they don't know any better, right? They think they're meditating, right? So unless they're actually consciously aware of the process of using the 6 facilitation exercises and consciously aware of the natural state and the laws that govern that transition and the growth, right? It has to be purification, right? So yes, so plant medicines, if there's an actual, if there's a need for it, again, if it's appropriate, then you can use the mushrooms to deal with somebody who is stuck in their shit. Like the mushrooms have told me, we work with people, we help people deal with their shit because we come from cow shit, we come from shit, we help people deal with their shit. And so this is where, if you know how to understand the energy signatures and that of all the plants, then you can actually do what's necessary. So yeah, all the advanced levels of the ADARA meditation, it all crosses over into everything else I share, where you will be taught how to detoxify yourself and know and understand how to interpret where somebody else is at in terms of their detoxification, purification process, because it's actually not separate. If somebody turns up and they're morbidly obese and they might have been vegan for a year or something, and they still haven't got onto a chemical-free diet or a chemical-free personal hygiene regime, then they're going to be toxic as hell, right? And there's no way on earth they're going to be able to meditate. And you have to somehow use non-violent communication and whatever it is to actually get through to the people that what they're doing is only pacifying the mind, right? So this is leading into what I wanted to say, right? So when people don't honor the laws of purity, being the foundation of the natural state, like as soon as something's not pure, it loses its state of stillness, or it loses its flow, right? And if it's in a flow, it may be still, but if you agitate it with something that's not pure, it will start to speed up and take deviations. Like there's like genetically modified food. It just makes everybody's energies go completely opposite, on a tangent. So, so I think that's enough. So with the plant medicines and fasting, so the other thing with fasting is when you look at fasting, the idea of fasting is you leave your stomach empty, right? So if somebody is having trouble finding emptiness, then fasting is appropriate, right? But then there's water fasting, dry fasting, vegetable juice fasting, there's all sorts of raw food fasts, whatever. So there's all different types of fasting, but that has to be relative to their environment and all those other 3,456 factors, right? And it does sound complex. It's never complicated. And again, once you know how to interpret it, you will know, it's like somebody asked me today about fasting, and they think, cleansing. They asked me about cleansing, which is one of the steps. And I said, well, no, that you actually need to do a full-on detox, right? You're actually past the stage of cleansing. You need to do a detox now because of the time of the year and where you're at within the cycles. You can't do a cleanse and then have a fast and then do another cleanse. No, you've got to follow through with a detox, right? So this is where all these things feed into your potential to be able to find and maintain the state of stillness, emptiness, and silence. And this is one of my gripes, if I'm allowed to have gripes, that I have with other meditation techniques. I've had people who are chocoholics, full of dairy milk chocolate, come to me telling me they're an expert in meditation. And it's like, seriously, you're full of caffeine, you're full of sugar, and you're full of lactose and casein and milk fat, which is going to destroy your liver, which is the seat of stillness. And there's no possible way you're going to actually find stillness within that state, right? So, what I'm going to cover now is to help you understand the distinctions between when it's just a theory and philosophy and when it's a conscious and deliberate act, right? So, and then I'll get into the more of the practical side of things. You'll have to keep me on track with time too, Mark, so I don't get too carried away. All right, so this is what came to me today, right? When people are being taught techniques to practice, right, that becomes something they work towards to gain a result. And a lot of the times, the results are unspoken, right? So, if you're doing, mantras or something like that as a form of meditation, then if you don't understand what results it's possible to get from mantras, then if you, like, say, for example, like mantras, if you're using a mantra which is saying it internally in your mind, it's a mental exercise. And if you look at it in terms of stillness, emptiness, and silence, it's definitely not going to promote internal silence if you're using that part of your mind that loops on, if you get a song stuck in your head. Essentially what mantras are doing is using that part of your mind. It's just using those pathways to silence that part of your mind, just give it something to do. It's like putting it on a treadmill just to keep it happy, right? But unless it's done deliberately to take the energy that's looping in a song and you're stuck in your head and transfer that loop into a cycle with the breath, unless that's a conscious transition, mantras will not work. Yeah. How are you going to get internal silence if you're using a mantra otherwise, right? You use a mantra to get you into the stillness and you do that, if I get you to sing a song, if I just get you to close your eyes and imagine singing a song, 99% of the time your breathing will go with you imagining singing your heart out, right? So if you're using your breath to actually say the mantra and not just like Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, to say it really fast, if you actually say it consciously and deliberately using the breath, a mantra will help you find the stillness and emptiness, which will then result in silence, right? So if you're not doing it with the breath, it's just a mental exercise which won't give any. It won't give you it will give you a result of just thinking of something else, right? But it won't give you the outcome of attaining and maintaining your natural state. I'm hoping I'm making sense here, right? So what happens is, if you're being taught a technique and it's not consciously and deliberately focused on attaining and maintaining session and link top, then all it's doing is adding to your burden, right? It's what you're doing is you're looking for a result, right? The outcome you're looking for is stillness, emptiness, and silence, right? And in that state of being, you are nothing and nobody, right? You're an instrument, like my didgeridoo. I always go back to my didgeridoo. It's sitting there completely still, empty, and silent. It's not trying to be anything. It's not trying to become anything. It's not trying to improve on anything. It's just purely being what it is. And right, so this is how we are meant to be as well. We're all divine instruments from this perspective, and we only respond if and when needed. So therefore, if we're not having to respond to the internal world, we only think and do what's essential for ourselves, right? And this is where we're going with this, right? So what happens is when you're being taught techniques and you're practicing it, and if you're not doing it, if you're doing it in the dualistic paradigm, it's just one more thing you're trying to become. You're trying to get better at it. It's like you're trying to alleviate a problem. Your intent, like I talked about last night, your intent as to why you're doing the meditation is that you're trying to alleviate a problem, make a difference, go from the problem to a solution, or try to improve on the positives, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're finding your natural state beyond the dualities, right? So if it's not helping you find your natural state of stillness, emptiness, and silence, it's contributing to the clutter within the dualities, right? That's my main gripe with a lot of things, right? And when you actually have people in the dualistic state, it adds to their compensated personalities, becomes another thing their ego identifies with. And that increases the toxicity, right? And this is what was funny about Richard Grannon's comments about the shamans and the people that do the plant medicines. It's the same with people who do yoga and meditation. It's the same thing. It's like he talks about the narcissism within all that. It's absolutely hilarious, right? So the main thing is if you're having to put in effort to become something, and if you're trying to do something, trying to become better, then it involves effort. And whenever there's effort, there's a level of tension, right? So when I was tuning into all this earlier, it's the old, no pain, no gain mentality, right? If you're working hard at something, then that's actually getting further and further away from giving you the result, right? So when you're working hard at something and it's result orientated, it means that there's an element of denying that what it is that you're seeking is not present, right? Everything we want and need to be whole and complete is present. And even though it sounds very cliche, it is within. And if we know how to connect within ourselves, then we'll know how to connect to it with outside of ourselves. And this is what a lot of people are struggling with, this whole scamdemic. That they're losing themselves to all the opposition and all the antagonism, that people can't accept that Bill Gates and his mates are ripping everyone off with this whole scam, right? So if people are focused on a result, they're missing the point, right? And what happens is, because of all the reasons I explained last night, they're not consistent within their practice. Because a part of them is scared of getting the result, because if they get the result, then they have to try to maintain that state. And when they don't understand all the factors feeding into their reality, and they're consistently inconsistent, and then, you know, they go around and boast to all their friends, oh, I attained this state in meditation, and then 15 minutes they're having a blow up about something, then everyone's going, well, a fat lot of good your meditation's doing. Yeah. So people don't want to appear to be inconsistent. They want to appear to be in control. You know, there's that great meme going around the internet going, relax, nothing's under control. So what happens is there's an element of people being a coward. They're actually cowering from life. Oh no, you know, I want that, but just not now. Give it to me when I'm ready, right? When I've done what I've needed to do to prove to myself that I'm worthy of it, and wait until I've actually proved to other people that I'm worthy of keeping it, you know, whatever it is. So there's a cowardness to it, and I won't go into it fully, but you'll get more of it when I explain later on. So when there's this tension in people, there's an anticipation, expectation of a result, right? And one of the masters I spent time with, he said, if you haven't surrendered to the fact that there's no free will, you haven't awakened to the fact that, he said, it's your intention or it's divine intention. And if it's your intention, you are in tension, right? Which means if you're acting on your own free will, there's an element of tension in your body. If you haven't surrendered or awoken to the divine nature of things, then you are not honoring the divine intention unfolding. So you won't experience the effortlessness of it, right? So when there's tension, all the tension, where I could talk about with the breathing, it goes up into the neck and shoulders and, you know, in the arms and legs and so on. And that's where all that tension stores all your cellular memories and programmed associations. And when you're still in the dualistic world and you're working hard to survive and, all that sort of thing, all those memories are being triggered on a daily basis. It's like the repetitive strain injuries keep people stuck where they're at within their own spiritual evolution and everything, right? So what happens is the internal dialogue, I was talking about the 18 origins of your thoughts. Your thoughts are primarily in a dualistic state, cellular memories and programmed associations, and the bugs in your gut and chemical poisonings, right? So if you don't know how to transcend all that through the breath, then you're just going to be a victim of it. And this is one of the reasons why people don't want to meditate, is because they can't handle all the internal dialogue and the confusion that comes up. And because they can't get underneath that noise, so like a bandwidth, they can't go down the other end of the dial, then they go, yeah, I know I should be meditating, but I'm always busy. Yeah. And again, there's a part of their cowardness because they don't know how to work through that and get to the other side. It's a bit like Brandon Beige, they don't know how to just go through it. So all that tension is due to the lack of tone in the right muscles in the abdomen, breathing below the navel. So when you have the tone in those muscles, it helps you maintain the mental and emotional state where you're clear in your thoughts and you're consciously present, right? So instead of having the tone below our navels, we've got all the tension in our shoulders and everywhere else in our body, right? So when you do all the breathing with a smile on your face and direct the breath below the navel, then you're affirming the effortlessness in every moment. So remember, the ultimate's inevitable. And when you've surrendered or awakened to the divine will and divine order, all the divine elements, everything between now and then is effortless, right? So that's why the master said to me, your efforts to maintain the effortlessness, right? So when you're in that state, you're feeling the flow, right? You're not having to work hard to get a result, right? And this is where what I was wanting to talk about comes into the fact that you are the outcome of life itself in the moment, right? The universe has gone to an extreme amount of trouble to create you to be here right here, right now. It's holding all the atoms and molecules together in your body. It's holding all the atoms and molecules in whatever chair or bed or sofa you're sitting on. It's holding together your house, right? It's holding together your computer and everything. So there's an intelligence holding all these forces in order, right? So what I'm saying is when you go back inwards and you connect with the intelligence of it, your awareness expands into being all of this. And you're not just having a relationship with it from the internal to external. You're having a relationship within it, within yourself, within consciousness itself. Right? So you can be at one with every molecular force holding the pigment of the paint on the wall. It sounds like a bit of a stretch, but where else are you going to go with your meditation? What else are you doing if you're not coming to the point of oneness, right? Most people are just satisfied with feeling connected in a level of unity, right? So this is where the practical part of it will come into it, right? So when you're feeling the flow and you're able to just maintain the inward coming thoughts, right? You're saturated with the beauty, goodness, and freedom, and your guidance is actually guiding you down towards your ultimate. This is where we need to be consciously aware of exactly what's happening, right? So this is the main point I want to make, right? So the measure of all that is how much peace you're feeling, right? The depth to which you're feeling the peace. Like I said the other night, the bit that I edited out because I was too sweaty, where you've recognized, realized, accepted, you're willing to comply, which is apply, practice, cultivate, and then you have a change in your experience, expression, evolution toward your potential and purpose, right? So that's the process, right? So the depth that you go, the depth of peace you feel is how far down that process you are, right? Hopefully that makes sense to people who tuned in, right? So how do you be at peace while living in the modern world? Right, like my Taoist Tai Chi masters, this is a bit of a thing, but when I first wrote the book, I included my personal stories, and then I got to the point where there's so much antagonism and narcissism, I actually changed the stories in the book to a student meeting the master. With most of those students' master stories, it was actually my own personal experience. So it takes the fun out of it for me in some ways, because I can't talk about these experiences when I'm doing these sorts of events, but you know, one of the masters, you know, said, the master that said to me, your efforts to maintain the effortlessness, that's one thing. But then how do you remain at peace while living in the modern world? You make the decision to do so, yeah? And it's either suffering or inspiration that brings you to that point, right? We talked enough about the suffering last night. Now we need to talk about the inspiration. Where does that take us, right? So the problem with it all is that people are going into meditation expecting it to, the meditation is actually, to them, is the result they're looking for. They're trying to get more meditation techniques so they can practice it. And all they're doing, like what Sam Harris says, is they're thinking with their eyes closed. They're just having time out from the world or a reprieve from the stresses of their life. And they're sitting there thinking about something else for a little while. And just sitting there thinking about something else, it gives their body a chance to refresh itself. It gives their mind a chance to relax. But have they actually changed states of consciousness? No. Yeah. So what we're doing with the ADARA meditation is to consciously change your physical state, your mental state, and your state of consciousness. Consciously doing that through the breath and using the breath to access the stillness, emptiness, and silence. Right. So the way that I suggest people do that is very simple. You just make the decision to do nothing and be nothing in the moment, right? And the way you master that is simply just die. You just die. You sit there and die. So that breath is your last. And then what you do is you honor all the sources of the energies and the intelligence giving your body the breath and the heartbeat. And you just observe that. And when you go deeper and deeper into that, you end up going back into the source of that intelligence, the source of the breath, the source of the heartbeat, and the source of that, it's actually the I am presence within it. And the presence within you and within the heartbeat, right? So what happens is you go into the breath, and then within that, you connect with the source of the breath being your future self. And then you go deeper into it and you connect with the source of the heartbeat being your higher self. So it's the I am within myself now. It's the I am within my future self. It's the I am within my higher self, all becoming one. And then from the I am in the moment, I'm sending information back to the I am in my past, so that I am within your timeline becomes one being, right? Looking at one of my fingers, right? They're all myself, just appearing in different parts of time and space, right? So what happens is when you get connected to all the I ams within your timeline, your consciousness expands to the point where your heartbeat gives you a connection to the intelligence within everyone else's heartbeat. And the I am like the I am is, if I ask you, how do you know you're here right now? And the only way you can answer that truthfully is I am. So you're honoring the presence. What is it that gives you the sense of being here? It's the I am. So you're honoring that. This is where, for what the Bible's worth, Jesus supposedly said, for I am within you. No one comes to the Father except through me. It wasn't me. It was a mistranslation. It was the I am, right? No one comes to the Father except through the I am. The I am within me is the same as the I am within you. And this is where all the people like Nisargadatta Maharaj and Ramana Maharshi, they say, if you sit down, shut up and be quiet and go deep into the I am, you'll connect with the presence within everyone and you'll be blissed out. And you won't be just looking for temporary satisfactions in things that make you happy, right? This is permanent bliss, yeah? So the way to attain that bliss is to die to everything that's not of that nature, right? And it's essentially everything that's outside of you, right? Like I was saying about the flower, if you imagine you're a flower looking out into the world and you withdraw your senses and you keep going back in to become the tree and the earth and the planet and then the sun and the whole universe, right? It's the same. When you withdraw your senses and go inwards to the I am and you keep going with that, you'll end up back at source. And then from the source, you experience everything, which is what we'll probably do with the meditation shortly, right? So when you're doing meditation, looking for a result, you're actually putting in the effort. The question is, who's putting in the effort, right? Who is, like I said last night, who's practicing? It's usually just your parent's child, right? Or your ego self trying to become better, trying to improve something, looking for a result. But when you die and you're at peace being nothing and nobody, again, like a didgeridoo, just being played by the universe, right? And your intent is to love all, serve all, because everything is just you in another form. Yeah. So within that, there's everything. There's no need to go in search of anything. So there's no process of becoming. That just literally leaves everything in the here and now, right? So in that sense, there's no need to learn a technique. The ADARA meditation is very simple. Just master the art of dying in the moment and just honor what gives you life, yeah? So when you look at it, I'm just going to read these notes, right? Meditation is a form of healing which enables you to realize your true nature and the true nature of life. And it helps you maintain that state, right? When you know how to maintain that state, it ensures that you're able to maintain your growth, which is your true natural state. Everything's growing and expanding as it evolves. When you're evolving towards your potential, and which is what I was talking about last night, you evolve towards your potential. And then within that, you evolve to fulfill your purpose. That's all happening on an individual level. But the next part, which is where I want to get to, the true potential is to have fun, right? That's the meaning of life, is to have fun, as maximum amount of creative potential as you can. The purpose of life is to share that fun, right? So when you look at it, there's a process. This is the bit that I haven't shared, but this is the key part which dissolves your need to keep trying to meditate, right? Meditation is going to take you to what I'm about to say. The outcome of meditation is not that you can sit there and relax and get up and feel refreshed and feel you cleared your head. No, meditation is, again, like I was saying about plant medicines, it is a form of medicine. It's not the actual result you're looking for. It's not the outcome itself. You're not looking to be a master yogi meditating. You're here to be a supernatural being, knowing exactly how to fulfill your potential and purpose, right? So it's a means to help you find and maintain that flow towards that outcome, right? So what happens is the true meaning of life is to have fun. The definition of fun is to be pure in your spontaneous creative expression. And the degree to which you can do that is relative to how much room there is for improvisation, how much you're supported in that, right? So then the spontaneity and the creativity helps you liberate all that you are. You're able to be all that you are. And then from there, you're creatively able to do all that you're here to do. And the improvisation, because that's the basis of all growth, this is the key thing, right? Improvisation is the seat of growth. When you're improvising, you're coming up with something that's new again. Remember, we're talking about the new. It's new to the power of infinity, right? So being able to stay on that leading edge of consciousness, expanding into the unknown, the infinite new, then that's the true meaning of life. That's the purpose of life, is to be at peace and expand into this infinite field of creative energy, right? So when you're in that state, there's a state of self-forgetfulness. You forget who you are. And nearly everybody I've spoken to knows that state of self-forgetfulness. Meditation is to help you find and maintain that state. It's the medicine to actually get rid of everything that's like I was talking to you about before. The purification in detoxification is to get rid of the excesses and put back what's missing. Meditation's doing both of that, right? To get rid of the things that are taking you away from who you are and bringing in the truth of who you are. When you get to that point where it's all clear, you're in a state of self-forgetfulness. You don't have to have a story. You don't have to have a past, right? So the state of self-forgetfulness, then within that liberated state, you're able to have a state of pure celebration, just purely being. Like little Petals sitting here on my lap, she's a pure being. Like, she's absolutely hilarious. There's a mystery about her that I haven't solved yet as to how she's so celebrative. She's just so spontaneous. It's absolutely phenomenal. I've never seen a kitten like her before, right? So the pure celebration of life, this is where you can just celebrate, being physical, being male, all your sexual energies, your creative energies, being able to go for a walk along the beach, celebrate the food, just celebrating every single aspect of your being and celebrate every single facet of your life, right? So remember, the aspects of being are your experience, and the facets of life of your expression. You're celebrating your experience, you're celebrating your expression, and you're able to evolve in that because of everything we just said is feeding into the true experience and true expression of who you are, right? So in the pure celebration of it all, you're then able to share that experience, and that's where playfulness comes into it, right? So this is where all the tantric sex and, all that tantra and music jamming and, people playing games at the beach, this is all just pure playfulness, just where everyone's in a state of self-forgetfulness playing, right? And everybody knows when everyone's just having fun and somebody is taking things personally and seriously, how inappropriate that is, right? So the playfulness then leads to the experience of joyfulness, right? So joyfulness, if you look at the true definition of joyfulness, it's having played fully, right? The joy of that. And like, if you look at the words I've just used, self-forgetfulness, playfulness, joyfulness, right? It means it's all or nothing again, back to what I was saying last night, right? So this is where being on that leading edge of consciousness, expanding into the state that I just spoke about, requires a level of courage, right? And when I was tuning into it before, I got told the word brave. You have to be brave to be able to embark on that journey, right? And what you might be asking, well, why do you need to have courage and be brave? How many people do you know who are living in that state? And how many people are going to support you honoring that state, claiming that state to the exclusion of everything else, right? That takes courage. That you have to be brave to withstand all the blowback that you're going to get from the dualistic paradigm when you honor that, right? I know that state very well, yeah? So this is where when I was meditating on this and I got given the word brave, guess what I got shown? Yeah, a North American Indian. Why do they call them braves, right? Funny that, isn't it? Yeah. So when you look at the pure state that they're in, when they go on their vision quests, it's like what the Ngangkari, the indigenous spirits out west, were talking about, is that you can stand there naked in the wilderness, walk in any direction, and be guided towards thriving, right? So when you're in a dualistic paradigm, you're working hard, meditating hard to help you survive. What I'm just sharing with you now, forget about all that. This is all about thriving towards playfulness and joyfulness, right? And well, that means that the brave, we have to continue being brave to claim that, right? And to more or less defend it with what's been going on in the world, yeah? So, so what happens is the deeper you go into this state, the more reference points you have of its nature within yourself, right? So you're developing all these reference points only to get you back to your natural state. And when you look at the 18 origins of thought impressions, that's the divine oneness. Guess what? Once you get back to divine oneness, you don't need reference points anymore, right? That's the reference points is when you've got your journey all mapped out, and when you get there, all your reference points are no longer necessary because you're there. When you get back to divine oneness, you're beyond time and space. You don't need any reference points, which means you're free to play as much as you want, right? And that's the state that very few people know is being offered to us in every moment of every day, right? So once you get back to the divine oneness, guess what? You forget about all your reference points. You know, I went through this state, 5 years ago something, and everyone turned on me. It's like, yeah. And this is where it takes a level, you have to be brave to the point where you're willing to die to everything and everyone around you, because they either consciously support you in this journey or they don't, yeah? So this is where I talk about just smile and wave, you know? It's excruciatingly painful to have people not be able to keep up with you, but you can't. It's just more painful if you try to hold yourself back and to get others up to speed with you on the journey. Sometimes it's impossible to do that, yeah? So that's the main thing that I wanted to share with everybody, right? That's the difference between consciously going into meditating, knowing that it's only a tool to get you to the ultimate outcome, right? And it's not a lifelong thing that you need to practice, right? You only need to practice when you want to go to another level and you want to get downloads, right? So like this is what I talked about the other week, is once you get to divine oneness, you then within the other origins of thoughts, the green ones, the other green ones like drip feed into you, not from reference points, but directly from source. Like it's a bit like when the divine's writing something, it's where the ink's meeting the paper. Once you go back to divine oneness and you're anchored in that state, all those other divine inward coming thoughts, and they're not really inward coming thoughts, but the divine impressions come in the moment, right? And that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people. That's where you have to be brave, right? That's why sometimes when you're in that state, you can't explain yourself to people, right? Somebody asks you to defend or wants to hold you accountable for something, you can't explain it to them, right? Because they've got no reference points of what you're talking about either, right? And you won't have any reference points because you are nothing and no one. You're no longer anything. You no longer feel obligated, committed, or responsible for anyone because you are just what you're being in the moment, the divine instrument, right? So that's the main thing I wanted to share with everybody. So I'll just check. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. So that I haven't talked about any of that hardly at all before with anyone. So is there any questions on that before we do a bit of practical side of things? Any questions come up in amongst all that, Mark?
No, under control, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, hopefully that made sense to everybody. Again, if you didn't get it the first time, watch the video. I'll go,
Okay, there's a couple just come up now. Shane's written, people are numb to life. What does it take for life to be felt, be a felt experience again?
Suffering or inspiration, Shane. Yeah. If you're a living example of inspiration, if somebody's suffering, again, this is not always appropriate, but it's like a pattern interrupt. You ask people, what's the funniest thing that you've ever had happen? Or what would be the most fun, interesting thing you could do right now? Yeah. And it's just like, there's very clever ways. Again, if you're intelligent and creative, you'll come up with ways of getting through to people, right? If you're in a situation, sorry, pedals are stirring. I'll move over for her. If you're in a situation and somebody's upset, you can just play the game. If you're in a work situation and everyone's, upset, say, yeah, I'm just putting up with all this shit so I can go for a bike ride on the weekend. What are you going to do on the weekend? All of a sudden, you've just turned their attention away from the problem. Yeah? Makes sense? So this is where, again, with parents, they're caught up in the problems. They can't be creative to spontaneously shift the energy away from the problem and the reaction or the solution. The answer is, what are you going to do for fun on the weekend? Yeah? It just redirects all that energy, like I was saying. Yeah? All right, any other questions?
Farah has written...
sorry, just a little bit more on that note, right? You've got to remember, the only reason why the world's in the current state that it's in is that it's forgotten how to be childlike and have fun, right? And everybody knows all this bullshit about the vaccines and everything like that. The more exposed you are to all these things, the more you develop a natural immune response. And, the Bill Gates and his mates is denying nature and interfering with things. Like if you look at what Judy Mikovits is talking about, getting in there and engineering viruses, it's like, for what purpose? Why would you be doing that unless you're doing it for biological warfare or mind control experiments or, mass vaccination campaigns where you're dumbing everyone down, right? So again, you've got to remember, people are only in the state that they're in through no fault of their own, because this has been generations of just taking things personally and seriously, exposing ourselves to everything that's not natural, everything that's chemical and artificial and everything, all the stimulants, literally take away our potential to find stillness, right? And one of the masters I spent time with, when I was getting my head around the extent of the human condition, he said to me very emphatically, you have to remember that humanity is no longer capable of being ready to change, right? And if you look at the words ready, willing, able, capable, capacity, potential, they're no longer capable of being ready. So again, like I said, if I said I'm going to throw something to you, how do you ready yourself? Find the stillness, emptiness, and silence, solitude, inwardness, and openness to receive what's coming, right? So again, if somebody can't find stillness, emptiness, silence, solitude, inwardness, and openness, they're not wanting to hear what you say. You're going to be just like force-feeding them information that they can't digest, yeah? So this is where redirect all that energy they've got going on, all the stress, just take them outside and have fun. Kick a soccer ball around, go and bounce on a trampoline with them, right? Get that childlike purity happening again, yeah? That's all that's missing. Like I said, it's an endless, bottomless pit worrying about what state everyone's in. The answer is everyone's forgotten how to play. Everyone's forgotten that we're here to have fun, yeah? So like I said, meditation is only healing a lifetime or however long it's been since you've forgotten to have fun, right? So when you finished meditating, guess what? It means you should be springing to your feet, going out and having fun doing your 6 soul elements. That's what it means. Go out there and just play, right? It's the then what. Meditation is not the outcome. It's your ability to find that state of pure self-forgetfulness, yeah? And go and share that fun with as many people as you can, yeah? So any other questions?
Farah asked, so with what is going on in the world, should we approach our challenges joyfully?
What other choice do you have? Like, seriously, what are you going to do? Sit there and cry all day? Again, it's a conscious choice. You celebrate the fact that it's a challenge in your life. If you're going to sit there and cry over it being a problem, you've missed the point, yeah? It's every moment's an opportunity for fun. The bigger the problem, the greater the challenge. Embrace that, accept it. Like I was saying last night, you have to recognize, realize, and accept it. The universe doesn't care whether you're enjoying this whole scamdemic or not, right? It's a challenge that you have to rise above, yeah? and find the fun factor in it. Yeah, it's boring as batshit, you know, talking about the same old thing day, but you've still got to do it as a service to help get through to people. Yeah. Everybody on this call is obviously ready, willing, and able to hear what I'm saying. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. The people that hear the video recording of this means they'll be ready, willing, and able. But once you're consciously aware of this, you will be able to consciously transmit the truth through to other people, and you'll be able to help enlighten them to the nature of things. Not just help them with the problem, but redirect all that energy going into the dualistic paradigm and just restore the natural state. And then everybody will be able to maintain that and share in the fullness of that. Yeah. So it's like life is about being all that you're here to do, doing all that you're here to do, and sharing everything you possibly can. And if we're not sharing the true nature of life, then we're just leading each other astray, and it's always going to end in tears. Yeah. And like, you can honestly look at people like Bill Gates and the Pope and Jeff Bezos and all these people. Do you honestly think they've got humanity's best interest in mind and in heart? I mean, they're purely evil. And on that note, just while I think of it, I just want to clarify something, because I don't normally use certain words. And I actually said the word motherfuckers there last night. I want to clarify the reason why. It's because these Satanists, these Luciferians, these people, part of what they do within their cult is to have sex with their mother. Just to clarify that, right? There's a horrific video going around. It explains one of it, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's not really worth talking about. But just so as you know, that's part of how damaged and traumatized these people are, to induce the psychopathy that makes them go out there and destroy the world like they're doing, right? So you have to be able to withdraw your energy from these psychopaths, turn it all into a fun, creative game, rise above it, and then go back and beat them at their own game. Yeah, by playing our own game and ignoring them. Yeah. All right. So, any other questions there, Mark?
Yes. So from Sam and Dylan, I'm assuming it's one of them, but the way I envisage the brave Brian is talking about is being bold enough to express your joyfulness, spontaneous playfulness, like when you were at a concert and able to dance with pure joy without fear of judgment from others, but showing pure expression of what you feel. Is this a good analogy, Brian?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, like, you look at, you know, I always take it back to an indigenous culture, because they didn't have technology. Imagine a corroboree where they've got all tribes from all the different nations coming together and having a big corroboree. You know, imagine the buzz of that environment. Yeah, imagine having a big powwow with all the Indians, you know, having their dances around the fire. I mean, like, the state of self-forgetfulness, you know, and it might have been enhanced with a bit of plant medicine, not just having some mosh pit where everyone's high on ecstasy, you know, artificially induced. This is a natural high. Yeah.
There was an addendum below that, without being under the influence of any drug or alcohol, of course.
Yeah. Again, like, when you're in a natural state, you can take the plants, because, like I said, when you get to the higher levels of plant medicines, but it's appropriate that you can use them in those events. And I'll talk about that in detail next time, when the time's right. Yeah. So any other questions before we do some practical things?
Peter Herman's just wanting to ask a question on audio, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it, Peter.
Do you know how to unmute yourself, Peter, or do you need me to do that?
Yeah.
There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, mate.
Hey, Brian. Hi, Mark.
Yeah, Peter.
Hi, Pete.
As you know, I suppose I'm living my life on the edge of being in Vietnam, choosing not to go back to Australia.
Yeah, good on you.
Yeah, that's what I reckon. Good on you, mate.
What is there to come back to, Peter?
Sorry?
What is there to come back to if you're having fun over there?
Well, I'm in a communist country and I've got more freedom. I can fly to Hanoi. Get your head around that one.
Doesn't it?
So, sorry?
That says everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get a little bit nervous when, you know, I'm in front of an audience, but at the same time, Brian, I'm going to be brutally honest, and that's the way you like it.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of listening to you, because
Good.
it tires me trying to get my head around. And the other thing that come to mind just at the same time
Yeah.
You know, I'm really, really getting tired of the mental gymnastics and the insanity around my lady friend, and in as much as our friendship grew to a really amazing uh, time that we shared.
Yeah.
But and also because we smoked a bit of weed together, and it showed her vulnerable side. But also, what I would like to share with you is I did some magic mushrooms about 2 weeks ago,
Right.
and I tried to keep it short.
Yeah.
I struggled the first half, and then the second half there was a lot of beauty.
Right.
Whether you want to be bothered to comment on that, but I find myself also in a position where everything's unfolding
Yeah.
in the perfect, and I go, oh, wow, look what just happened. Like today, I was riding a motorbike,
Yeah.
and I was looking for somewhere to stop to eat my 10 o'clock snack. And when I ended up stopping, it's like, oh my God, look, there's mistletoe. I love mistletoe in Vietnam, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of beauty in my life, but a lot of insanity as well.
Yeah.
Whether you want to make comments?
Well, what you're talking about is just being able to consciously maintain the dominant forces of beauty, goodness, and freedom. Again, like if you're saturated with beauty, goodness, and freedom, saturated implies, again, the fullness of it, that there's no room for anything else. So when you're minding your own business, focusing on what you're doing, the world doesn't exist. Self-forgetfulness means that you're forgetting yourself, right? That means you're fully involved. Like Sadhguru says, just involve yourself fully in what you're doing. Don't worry about the world. The world's none of your business, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, like obviously the weed obviously didn't do your lady friend. It either helped her or it didn't help. But again, plant medicines tend to blow people's livers out, and it could cause them to lose stillness. And once it wears off, the come down is usually a liver blowout, and the toxification of the blood-brain barrier and that. So that may not have helped her. So anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting too that
just getting back to you being tired of my voice, imagine how I feel then, right?
don't you
But seriously, Peter, like you're at the point, having read the book, where you just need to honour yourself that you probably don't need to listen to me. It's like that other young guy, he actually sacked me because he realised he can do it all himself. I live to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that the other night, and I thought, yeah. It was very interesting what you said about the plant medicines too, stopping you find stillness, and that was a struggle for me to trying to get back to anything close to stillness.
Yeah, but then this is why when you do the whole ADARA meditation, as you go into the plant medicines, like full-on ritual of eating stuff, then it'll take you beyond what you've been shown. Yeah, you have to be in the ADARA meditation state before you do a plant medicine. Yeah. Otherwise, it can just sort of turn you upside down and put you back in duality.
Yeah.
All
right, man.
All right. Appreciate it. Yeah. All the best.
Take care.
Any other questions before we do a bit of practical?
There was a couple there. Did you want to address them, or?
Yeah, if they're relevant.
Shane was following on from his earlier one. So with trauma or stored emotional charges, how important is reconciliation before someone can be truly anchored in the moment?
Again, who's doing the reconciliation? Right? If you know the technique of dying between breaths and heartbeats, there is no you to have to reconcile anything. The reconciliation comes with, I've just died, right? So this is not just imagining it or just pretending. No, this is actually dying. Right? This is why when you do plant medicines, and this is one of the things that Richard Grannon never experienced, he never crossed, it's called crossing over. And when you cross over, you actually die, right? Everything that is you dies, right? And when you get it come out the other side of that, when you go out the other side of it, that's when you get to see everything that's going on in your life for what it is. And that's the true healing part of it. It's when you do, it's the ultimate shift of perspective. And that helps you change your approach to things, yeah? What was the question again? Sorry, Mark.
Let me scroll back through it. So with trauma or stored emotional charges, how important is reconciliation before someone can be truly anchored in the moment?
So there is no conditions to this. This is also part of what my gripe is with all the other techniques, is it's perpetuating the conditioning and programming. I have to practice this however many times a day before I can get a result and get to the next level and get the next level of teaching. It's all bullshit, right? You do not need anyone to teach you or show you how to die, right? And if you truly die, and just honor the fact that, okay, if I was to actually die right now, where does that leave me, the I am that I think I am? Right? If I was to die, where do I go? What happens to me? Yeah. Right. So when you actually fully detach yourself from everything like that, imagine that it was forced. Like, you know, something comes and kills you, and you get killed instantly. This is why I said, you know, use death as your advisor. If I was to die now, am I living what's essential? Am I sharing what's essential? Am I living what's absolutely essential for my joyfulness? Yeah. And then imagine if everybody in your life supported you in that, right? This is one of the reasons why the whole draw your sword thing is stalling, because everyone's very slow to catch on to the fact that we're liberated beings and we don't need permission from anyone else. We don't need any statutes to tell us what we can and can't do, right? So again, the trauma is who's carrying the trauma. Who did it happen? When did it happen? Well, why did it happen, right? Like I said, I openly admit when I had my head injury, I had an intuition not to run under the wet concrete. I overrode it and boom, yeah? Right, so all of these happen. And when you go through it and you heal, then you realize that by healing, you bring into conscious awareness the laws, dynamics, and processes, which become reference points. That becomes something you can share with others who are suffering in the same way as you do, with compassion, no judgment. And so if somebody's got a story running, right, they actually don't know how to meditate. They're not being supported in the purification. Right? This is where if you have been bombarded with flashbacks with PTSD or complex PTSD, and you're still smoking cigarettes, good luck with that, right? Until you take a step towards purification and you change your lymph and blood chemistry, and that calms your nervous system down, and you give your body, the origins of your thoughts, a chance to come from somewhere other than the toxicity in your existing state, you're not going to have a shift of, you might change your mental state from something less negative or more positive, but it's not going to be natural. Like I said, you can be problem-free, but does that mean you're in your natural state? No. Yeah. So the whole world is perpetuating the belief that it's a process of becoming, and you have to work on your issues and all that sort of stuff. This is not spiritual bypassing, right? Do you imagine if you died right now, right? Are you spiritually bypassing everything you have to believe that you've been believing when you get confronted with the truth that you're actually what you are when you die, right? So this is where it's the most humble thing you can do, is to live on that edge between life and death, right? And that makes you honor what you get given in the moment. It honors what everyone else is being given in the moment. And there's no need to talk about the past at all. At all, right? Because you're left in silence. It all goes without saying. That was then, this is now, and joyfully embrace what's coming next. It doesn't get any harder than that, yeah? So anyway, we might talk about, dealing with traumas and things like that in another talk. So any other questions?
One more here. From Marco again.
Marco.
It's literally being willing and able to die for truth, die in every moment with every heartbeat. So whatever is asked of you by divinity is without hesitation, delay, or contraction, rather expanding into everything as pure self-expression and celebration, unfolding in the unknowable, into the unknowable.
Yeah. All right. I want you to see how simple this is. All right. Everybody at home, wherever you're at, I want you to do what I ask you to do. Put your right hand up. Why did you do that? Because you responded to what came to you. Yeah. It doesn't get any harder than that. It's like the whole of life is a game of Simon Says. Yeah. And if the divine doesn't say Simon says this, and your cellular memory says do that without the Simon says, replace Simon with God, God says do this, God says do that. If it doesn't come to you, and if it's playing itself out as a program in your body, then don't act on it. It's that simple. Just respond to what comes to you. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll get to the practical. All right.
That's actually Brent.
All righty. So, I said I'll share with you some very powerful techniques, right? And very, very few people know these, but they know the opposites of them. How do they know the opposites of them? Wim Hof is teaching everybody them, right? Everything that Wim Hof is doing is perfectly fine. It's appropriate when it's appropriate. But if you know what I'm talking about, you won't need to do what he's doing, right? That's the result of overriding your intuitions. Like if you fall into an icy pond or you get caught up and get stressed and you need to snap your body out of a state, then it's good to jump into an ice bath or have a cold shower, right? But if you're in a state of grace, following your intuitions, you won't need to subject your body to that, right? It's a form of medicine, right? So Wim Hof does his breathing, right? So what I'm going to share is how to do the opposite to that, right? And the opposite to that is literally die, stop breathing. And what you do is you breathe in below the navel as slowly as you possibly can, right? Make sense? So I won't guide people through it, and I'll just explain it first and then we might better do it together. So you breathe in as slowly as you can, and then you hold it as long as you can without straining, and then you breathe out as slowly as you can. This is a controlled breathing in. Hold it this is no effort, and then you control the breathing out as slow as you can, and then you hold it out as long as you can again, right? When you direct all your energy into doing that, it's the thing that relaxes your mind and body the most, right? And this is a trick. If you do that with a smile on your face, a lot of people have said, "Oh, I tried it and it didn't work." And then I say, "Did you do it with a smile on your face?" And they go, "Oh, I forgot that bit," right? If you do it when you go to sleep with a smile on your face, chances are you won't ever get past 10. You won't be able to do that 10 times without falling asleep. Right? Most people would be asleep at the end, within the third one, right? Depending on how stressed and all that sort of stuff you are. But the idea is just to put a smile on your face. If everybody just wants to close their eyes, sit up unsupported if you can, or just be as relaxed as you can. Close your eyes and just stop breathing. Just let the body breathe itself for a couple of breaths. So as soon as you actually stop breathing, you instantly return to a state of stillness. And then you will observe the breath breathing, the body breathing, the breath just coming and going as it pleases. And then you'll actually feel like you want to have a sigh. It's like catching your breath. And then once you've had a sigh, from when the next breath comes in, you slow it down as slowly as you can. You breathe in as slowly as you can. And then I can't really guide everybody on it because it's going to be a different duration for each step of that. Whether you breathe in, hold it, breathe out as slowly as you can and hold it out. It's different for everybody, right? This is one of the reasons why guided meditations don't work as well as they can, right? So that is the most powerful thing you can do to literally calm down anybody in any state, right? You get them to sit up nice and straight, put a smile on their face, just breathe in, breathe out. You can do a Wim Hof thing to start with. Just relax, just watch the body breathe. And when you see them do this, just like a sigh, Then you say, now I want you to breathe in as slow as you can. And all the energy that they've been doing mental gymnastics with, all the physical tensions they've had going on in their body, just literally dissolve. Right? Energy goes where intention's directed, right? When you do that, it's a natural biological, biochemical response that is all seated in stillness, and the breath is coming in at the pace of grace. Right? When you're observing the breathing, the breath's going at the pace of grace. But when you actually slow the breathing down deliberately, right? That's actually, this is an exercise, right? It's not meditation. This is a breathing exercise, right? So when you breathe in, right, you're consciously directing all the energy. And because you're using these muscles, it changes your, like I talk about the homunculus, right? It's changing your blood chemistry and all the neurons, and you're using all the bioelectrical activity going down using your natural pathways, right? It bypasses all your compensatory pathways. It puts you back into the here and now, right? You try and do that and it's very difficult to have another thought come into your head when you're trying to do the breathing as slow as you can, right? Because you're concentrating all your energy on the breath coming in, then you're concentrating your energy on just holding the breath relaxed. And then you're concentrating all your energy on breathing out as slow as you can. So again, your mindfulness means your mind's not wandering off on other things, right? And because you're using the muscles below the abdomen, below the navel, it's actually having that neurological shift out of duality of the sympathetic parasympathetic state. That again, remember the conscious and dualistic paradigm is the sympathetic and parasympathetic. When you breathe below the navel, you're in a supernatural state. It helps you access the supernatural state. When you've got a smile on your face, that is, because it brings in the bliss, right? That's what you're doing. You're consciously bringing it in, right? So then, so that's something you can practice anytime, anywhere, with anyone. Yeah. So the key to it is breathing. Keep your chin up slightly, if you can, to keep your eyes turned up to the third eye as well. If you're looking up here, it keeps you connected to all the inward coming thoughts. If you sit here with your chin down, your eye and you're relaxing, your eyes tend to turn down and in, which means chances are you'll fall asleep. Right? Again, another technique to fall asleep. Just relaxing, relaxing, relaxing. Your eyes will fall down and in, and you'll fall asleep. Right? But if you want to meditate, keep your eyes turned up and in. Right? Very simple trick. All right, how are we going for time? We got time for the Divine Supreme meditation? The Supreme Divine meditation?
I can't see anyone complaining or suggesting that we don't.
Okay. All right, everyone ready? So just get yourselves comfortable in whatever way you need to. Sit up nice and straight. Keep your chin up. Keep your eyes turned up and in for this one. Just let your breathing just balance itself out. So with the phases of the breath, you can control any phase of the breath. If I say to you, catch the breath, you can just reset your breathing by breathing out, stillness, emptiness, and silence. Otherwise, you can just let the body breathe and then do this breathing in, breathing out. But I like to just go, if you go into a meditation, you can just literally go deep, as deep as you can, as effortlessly as you can, and just die. Yeah. So from that status, when you die, you go back to the stillness, emptiness, and silence. Like if I said to you, close your eyes, how big is the space inside your head? It's a void. So when you die, you go back to source, which is essentially a void. Right? So when you imagine dying now, I want you to imagine that your spirit, we're going into meditation now. So just, if you don't get this, you'll be able to listen back over it on the video. Just imagine the body dies and your consciousness goes into heaven or nirvana. And imagine that you're arriving there and you're in your spiritual body or your supernatural body, and you arrive in the most beautiful place you can imagine. And you just take in the scenery, you take in a big deep breath, and you feel absolutely alive. You're electric, you're divine, you're supernatural. Yeah. So in this state, you can expand your awareness and you become everything around you. You're all knowing, all powerful, and all present. Right? And then I want you to imagine that the divine appears to you. And the divine says, I'm going to make you equal and at one with me. And you feel your energies align and connect with that. And then the divine says again, I'm going to make you equal and at one with me. And you feel everything that was keeping you separate from the divine rise to the surface. And you see everything, all the conditions, all the programming, all the unworthiness, undeservedness. You just smile and you look at it all as it appears. And then the divine says to you, I'm going to make you equal and at one with me. And then the divine energy reaches out and merges into your being and dissolves all separation. And you absorb the absoluteness of that divine energy. You feel it flooding through your whole being to the point where it's just exploding in its purity and absoluteness. And in this state, you become aware of the breath again in your supernatural body, and you breathe it in. As you breathe it in, it anchors into every ounce of your being. And as it does, it continues to intensify. Now you are an extension of the divine itself. Now, in this state, your consciousness is aware of everything within creation. There's just you and the divine. But now, what is you merges with the divine, and then you actually disappear. And now, in this state, I want you to imagine that the entire creation disappears, and it's just you as your divine self. And in this state, you'll feel the absolute void, the absolute stillness, emptiness, and silence, the solitude, the I am, the oneness within the I am. You'll feel the infinite potential to be, but there's no experience, just the potential to be. Right? So in this state, you feel the desire to experience the absoluteness and the purity of your essence. So it's like the Om, the expansion. So you feel the desire to create yourself. So you feel the formless spirit manifesting into creation. And then that formlessness, the life of that, manifests into form. And you see that everything in creation is you in another form. And then the spirit enters into the sum of those forms and become living. So the I am within you is the I am within all living forms within the entire creation. And within creation, you see everything that ever has, everything that is, and everything that ever will exist within creation. It's all just your divine self. So in this state, you can see everything as a matrix. You can see the infinite diversity within the unity within diversity. And from this state, your conscious separation from yourself into your divine state, you extend yourself into your supernatural form. And then from your supernatural form, which is now an absolute form, it floats down through time and space, and it superimposes itself over your earthly human form. You find yourself within the earthly plane and you float down into it, and every cell in your human body takes on the vibration and the state of consciousness that your supernatural divine self experiences. And all dis-ease, all tension, all pain instantly dissolves in the purity of this absolute love, light, and life. You feel the oneness, the bliss, and the immortality exploding in and between every cell of your body. And with the next breath, you consciously breathe it in below the navel. And as you breathe in, you're drawing in and sending the absoluteness of this energy into the energy below your navel. And as it does, it intensifies and explodes through every cell of your body, and it flashes to the point of absolute bliss and peace. And from this state, you breathe in again, and it intensifies and it explodes and flashes out to fill your entire energy field. So now you breathe in again, and your whole energy field is absolute, and your whole energy field now explodes and envelopes the entire planet. So all beings in all forms on the planet is now receiving the fullness of the love, light, and life that's radiating from every cell of your being. And as with each breath, it intensifies. So then you breathe in, and then it explodes and intensifies and flashes beyond the atmosphere of the earth, and it explodes out to the edge of creation. And as it does, it intensifies with each breath. And now the love, the divine essence within you, every cell of your body, is reaching out and expressing itself to every living form in every world and in the whole of creation. So now every cell in your body is the center of creation. And it's reaching out to yourself in every other form of you. Every other form is yourself in another form. So you become every other form, looking back at yourself, receiving the fullness of that love from yourself. So you take another deep breath in, it explodes through your body, saturates your aura, saturates the enveloping the planet, and explodes out to the edge of creation. This time it reverberates off the edge of creation, and it comes back. And as it comes back into your body, it brings with it the absolute love and the honor of all beings in all worlds, in all universes, in all time. And every being in every form honors you for who and what you are in the now, in the human form on earth. So you receive the absoluteness of that. And then what it does is it intensifies and explodes even more powerfully out through your aura, enveloping the planet, and then it explodes out to reverberation, out to the edge of creation. And this time it comes back with even more love. So every breath is expressing itself unconditionally to all beings in all worlds and all universes. And now when you're saturated with this feeling, you're consciously aware of this. So now I want you to go deeper and feel the intelligence and the energy within the heartbeat. And now with each heartbeat, as it beats in your chest, all the cells are radiating the truth and the love of oneness, bliss, and immortality to all beings in all worlds, in all universes for all time. And that energy from your heart is now reverberating off the edge of creation and resonating back into your heart, receiving the fullness of all other living forms as heart, and you're receiving the oneness and the bliss of it all, the absoluteness of it. This is your natural state. This is your permanent, natural, divine state. I want you to feel the depth of the peace. I want you to feel the purity of this state. I want you to feel the peace that comes with knowing that there is nothing beyond creation that can influence you. There's nothing within creation that can influence you. It's just a pure beingness where you are one with everything. You're beyond time and space, but you're experiencing it, all of this within time and space, and you're honoring everything for what it is, and you're honoring all that you are, all that you're able to be, and all that you're able to do in the human form on earth. So now when you're in this state, I want you to just look back down your timeline and see the perfection in everything that's happened. And honor it. All the good, the bad, the indifferent, honor it. It was all perfect. See the stories that have been playing out. See how none of that is relevant to who you truly are and what you truly are. And now you can actually just put closure on the whole lot of it. The past is no longer relevant. And now I want you to turn your attention to your future timeline. And I want you to see the ultimate is inevitable. Not just for yourself, but all living beings in all worlds, in all universes. We're all merging to a timeline where we all come back to the source, where we all return back to that divine self. It's all just a play of consciousness. It's all just a game of life. It's all an evolution of consciousness. The meaning of life is to have fun, and the purpose of life is to share that fun. So you're back to the pure essence of life, and you're able to see the true nature of every aspect of your being, every facet of your life, on all levels of your being. I want you to see the pure bliss that comes with this, and the self-forgetfulness in this state. So in this state, you are absolutely grateful for the opportunity to be able to share the formless essence within form. So you're grateful for everything that's happened in your past to get you to this point right here and now. And you're grateful for everything that you have in the here and now, and grateful for everything that's yet to come. It's all the divine time, the divine order, the pace of grace, the divine will, the divine presence, the divine space. It's all perfectly according to the divine. And I want you to breathe in this perfection. Every breath is the divine expressing itself in, through, and around you at all times. This experience is always present within you. All the pathways within your consciousness are permanently open and fully connected. The challenge is to stay in this state as you're living in a dualistic world. I want you to see and feel now the equanimity within this state. I want you to see and feel how you are consciously able to transcend any and all influences, whether it's an object or a person. I want you to see how nothing and no one can take you out of this state. You're permanently anchored in this state for the rest of your life and for all your lifetimes to come. So now that you're aware of the true nature of consciousness and your true relationship with all things, this is the true enlightened state. You're seeing everything for what it truly is. You see the true relationship between all things. So now I want you to actually just honor the breath and the heartbeat as it's been given to you. And I want you to feel the fullness of that life, the immortal nature of that spirit, radiating within and between every cell of your body, sustaining life within your form. And now I want you to feel that you're now ready, willing, and able to continue living life as a human being, being all that you are, do all that you're here to do on earth in a human form, and find the opportunity to play, to be creative and have fun, and share that consciously and deliberately in every moment of your life. And I want you to honor the need for purity. And I want you to actually honor that you have responsibilities to share this with other people who are not yet awake. And that those opportunities will present themselves to you if and when you're required to do so. Otherwise, it's all about being fun and spontaneous in the moment. So now that you are fully awakened, fully enlightened, fully liberated within your consciousness, I want you to feel that the joyfulness of being able to live and share this consciously on earth in a human form gives you the ultimate bliss to rise above the challenge, to solve the puzzles, to play the game, to evolve consciously, to fill your life with meaning and purpose. I want you to see how this is the ultimate experience. I want you to honor the experience that you've been given. Honor the expression that you're able to hear, you're here to express. Honor the evolution, that it's not yours, it's actually the nature of life. So now that you're fully aware of this and understanding that it is permanent, I want you to feel the depth of the peace that comes with this state. And I want you to feel the bliss that comes with knowing that this state is permanent, that you're beyond influence. And this will only continue to deepen and intensify within you for the rest of your life and for all eternity. So now that you're fully aware, fully awakened, fully energized and enlightened, I want you to return your awareness back to your supernatural body. And again, turn your awareness to the divine. And in this state, you're able to get exact instructions directly from Source, what you need to do, where you need to go, how you must do things, all the what, when, how, where, why, and who, everything you need to know exactly for who you are, where you're at, will be given to you directly from Source, if you ever need to know. So just take a moment, get exact instructions, see what you need to eat, drink, how you need to exercise, doing it all this mindfully being present. And now in your supernatural state, maintain this connection, float down into your earthly human body again, superimpose it into every cell of your body where it all radiates and vibrates and resonates with the divine. And again, with every breath and every heartbeat, the expression of it reaches the hearts and minds and souls of all beings in all worlds, in all universes. Again, feel the permanence of this state. Feel the bliss of this opportunity. So now that you're fully aware, when you're ready, just take a big, deep, slow breath in like I showed you before. Just direct it below the navel. And then hold it. Just anchor it into your body. Maintain this state of consciousness. And then when you're ready, just breathe out as slowly as you can. Just make it very conscious and deliberate, where you're returning your awareness back to the density of the human body. And when you're ready now, again, take a deep, slow breath in. This time, I want you to just wiggle your fingers and toes, refamiliarize yourself with your body. And from here on, just keep bringing your awareness back into the body, but maintaining awareness of the breath and the heartbeat. And when you're ready, you can take a big, deep breath in and hold it. And when you're ready, you can then open your eyes and come back fully into this world. So just staying aware of the breath now. Just take a deep, slow breath in. And it's always beneficial when you come fully back in, just put a big smile on your face and just have a big stretch, like a morning stretch. Welcome back, everybody. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Supreme Divine Meditation. That is your permanent natural state. Any deviations out of that state means you're not living the truth. The challenge of life on earth is to maintain that state with every breath and every heartbeat. And that's what the masters in India showed me what to do and how to do. And that's what I'm here to share. Right? If we're not living and sharing that in every moment, what are we doing? Yeah. So the gratefulness is knowing exactly how to maintain that state and share it with others if and when needed. Yeah. All right, so on that note, if there's any questions or comments, we'll address that now. Otherwise, it's already over 2 hours. So is there any questions or comments or any feedback after that? Is everyone, if you're not feeling grounded, just keep a smile on your face and keep taking deep, slow breaths in, having stretches. Keep the smile on your face. A lot of people tend to not want to come back. That is part of the problem, right? The joy is being able to bring the fullness of that state into your earthly experience, regardless of your situation, right? The idea is, this is the degree to the masters taught me what this is all about. The idea is to stay in that state, even if you're being nailed to a cross, burned at the stake, or fed to a lion, and maintain that state of consciousness at all times. Yeah, that's the depth of where we're going with meditation, is to just go fully into the depth of it, stay anchored regardless of what happens. Yeah. So the masters I spent time with, they said, if you're not able to maintain that state, sit down, shut up, and be quiet until you can. So now you know where I'm coming from. Yeah. So any questions or comments, everyone?
Only been a few gratefuls and thank yous there. So no one else has popped any questions in there at this stage. If anyone wants to, or if anyone wants to share on microphone, rather, now's your chance. If not, like Brian said, it's been a couple of hours again, and 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
2 fun nights.
Yeah. So this will be posted online. So this is, Romeo's got a question. Did you want to speak up, or do you want to just type it in, Romeo? Okay. So he's just asking, what else can we do beyond the 6 soul elements? Is that it? So what I just shared with you is when you come back into the body, I'll explain this while you're typing your answer there, Romeo. The idea is when you come back into the body, you see the uniqueness of what it is that you have to do, right? Not to do for anyone else. This is part of the problems with the plant medicines and meditation, is that people go into it to try to get some insights on how better to fulfill their role. It's got absolutely nothing to do with anyone else. This is one of the challenges of what I share, is it's like I ask people questions and they always answer to try and improve how to fulfill their role, right? It's nothing to do with that. This is why I talk about in the book, right? There's all the roles, but you have to be able to play these roles for yourself first, right? So when you come back into the body, you'll see what it is that you're wanting to do spontaneously, whether it's to write a song or play a flute or go and dance or go for a swim. These are the 6 soul elements where they all come into it, yeah? So this is your uniqueness, right? And those 6 soul elements, they are what helps you develop your gifts, talents, skills, passions, and urges. That helps you find your potential so that then you can fulfill your purpose, right? But if you've never had fun, or if you haven't had fun since you were a kid, chances are you're not fulfilling your potential and you won't be able to even find your purpose, yeah? So any other questions until Romeo's ready? Or you ready with your question there, Romeo? So you are wanting to know about the elements to learn the martial arts. I have a very low opinion of martial arts because most of them are martial sports. As you may know, I'm a martial artist, and unless you're actually doing it with the true philosophy of where you've just been, transcendent of free will, and I like the philosophy of the Systema martial arts, where any need to hit somebody is a form of just healing them by helping them wake up. There's no energy, no emotional energy at all. And this is where, when you do Tai Chi, yoga, or even meditation, the idea is to go into that state and stay in it. That's why I'm saying when I was doing Tai Chi, you would do Tai Chi as an expression of that state, not in an effort to get there. Meditation is the thing that gets you there, right? Going into the stillness, emptiness, and silence. And then you do the physical exercise in the order of those facilitation exercises. The physical activities, the physical exercises are the expression of that. This is the being before the doing, right? And then the doing comes before the telling, right? So unless you're doing yoga or Tai Chi or martial arts in that state, then all you're doing is the ego is just expressing itself. It's just an ego activity, trying to prove something to yourself or someone else, yeah? So what I just showed you there is the essence of it all. Just if you wouldn't do it from that state, don't consider doing it at all, right? A lot of what a lot of people are doing is just it's just the residue of them being their parents' child, still trying to prove something to themselves or get that validation, recognition, validation, acceptance, approval, empowerment, or role for themselves. Yeah. So does that answer the question? So when you do meditation or yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong from that state, I'll suggest that you probably won't be doing those activities for long, because those activities are essentially, again, a form of medicine, right? If you've strained yourself, having done repetitious work years ago, you may need to do Tai Chi or yoga to balance your body out, right? But once you're actually able to maintain that state, those arts are healing arts, essentially, right? When children don't want to do yoga and Tai Chi, they just want to have fun, right? So again, when those activities are essentially not essential. What's essential is for you to be having fun, being creative, right? Yeah, no one knows this stuff, Romeo, so don't be surprised, yeah? So, all right. So again, everyone's stuck in the process of becoming. What happens at the end of the becoming? You get to be. What are you going to be? I don't know. I've never thought about it. What are you going to do? I have no idea. I've never thought about it. How are you going to share this with people? I don't know. Aren't we supposed to help people? No. This is serving each other to live the truth, yeah? Let's all live from this state within ourselves, which is the highest, purest truth. We're all divine beings. We can all honor that now. Let's get on with it and have some fun. Yeah? So, any other questions?
No other questions there. Marco just made a comment saying, simply want to comment, heart full of gratefulness to you all. Super epic, was simultaneously in heartbeat while up high and out expanded. This was the same as when DMT experienced, intuitive process all the way.
Exactly. So this is what plant medicines are trying to get you back to this state so you can stay in this state, right? But there's another level to plant medicines I'll talk about beyond that, right? And that's where the really good fun starts, yeah? But that's all for another conversation. So, you know, if there's no other questions, we'll call that a wrap. And, well, thank you, everybody. It was an honor to share all that with you now that you know where I'm coming from. Yeah, I look forward to sharing it all with you further down the line, if and when necessary. Otherwise, yeah, we'll go and have some fun doing something together. Maybe all one day when we've won the battles. That the only way we're going to win these battles if we're creative with it. Yeah. So. All right. Well, thank you again, Mark. Brilliant as always.
Thank you, Brian. I've popped those links to the meditation, the ADARA page on Brian's website, as well as the book page, as well as the donations page. So if anyone wants to go and check those out, you've got the links again. And then obviously when these lockdowns end, obviously the ADARA is one of Brian's favorite workshops to teach. So if you're listening to this outside of Melbourne or Adelaide or the Gold Coast, where these workshops usually happen, and you can round up enough numbers, it's an Ask Brian type situation, and if there's enough interest, Brian will come. So yeah, it's
yeah, I live on demand, so if there's enough of a demand, I'll respond. Otherwise, I'll just stay here writing and yeah, doing what I need to do here. So. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Sorry to interrupt there. Sam's just written a quick question from Dylan, if possible.
Okay. Fire away.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, how you going?
Good. I'm just trying to figure out how to word this.
Yeah.
Two things. One, when we're in the meditation and you sometimes refer to, you can work out where your thoughts are coming from. And so when you say that, I question, are we analysing our thoughts or?
No, well, when you're meditating, you mean, or in the Supreme Divine meditation?
When you're meditating.
When you're meditating, the idea is when you're going into the stillness, emptiness and silence, and when all your energy is focused on just attaining the stillness, emptiness and silence, the inwardness of your energy, as your energy goes inwards, it's very easy to see the energy going outwards. It's a bit like if you go up the wrong way on a road, right, you can see all the other cars and everything coming towards you, right? So when you're consciously turning your energies inwards, it's very easy to tell where the energy that's going outwards is coming from, if that makes sense. So I liken it to being in the middle of a really like a 5 ways intersection, right? You can see whether it's a bicycle, car, truck or bus or whatever coming from whatever direction. When you're still empty and silent in the middle, right, you can see what's coming, where it's coming from, right? But when you're going deeper down where you are, all of that thing on the surface just falls away. Yeah?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Do we need to know where they're coming from?
No.
No, that's what I thought, yeah.
Again, like this is not spiritual bypassing, it's consciously transcending it. It's all just what's programmed into your earthly body within time and space. but that's not what you are. You're a point of awareness within consciousness. The body's just the vehicle. It's like knowing, no different than knowing, the tread pattern on the tires of your car. It's like, it's just the vehicle, right? You don't need to know what's going on under the hood, right? It's not you. The mind and body is not you. It's the point of consciousness within the mind and body, and what the information that's flowing through it, and where that information is coming from. Good question, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did there was another question as well?
Yeah, but you've answered it. It was just come up from the last meditation talk we did, and I just questioned myself: is it important to analyze those thoughts to see where they are coming from?
Only if it's stopping you, right? So again, the only way you're going to be able to see it for what it is if you're already beyond it, right? It's like I call it, they're like bandwidths, right? If you can get underneath it and you look back, you can see where all the information pathways going around, but when you actually go out of that, again, it's a spectrum, right? The outward going thoughts is a spectrum within duality. When you go into the spectrum of consciousness, you're going outside of those realms. So you can come back in and go, okay, I can see I'm dehydrated, I'm lacking magnesium. You can see all that, right? But again, one of the masters I spent time with, he said, you only address the vehicle, the mind and body, if it's interfering with your role and your duties and your ability to find and fulfill your potential. Otherwise, you don't have to pay attention to the stories, That's why when you're consciously doing synergy, listening to your intuition, everything's automatically being put back. So there's no issues coming up with excesses, There's no deficiencies or excesses coming up when you're maintaining synergy in nature, soul, and food,
Yep.
Okay. All righty. All right, well, thanks for that, Dylan. Any other questions before we go?
Yeah, Kelly Green has written, hey Brian, just quickly, every time I do this meditation, I change state within myself to a lower state, cry and get stuck, and to when I started. Is that a self-correction in a pathway?
Well, this is where, does everybody realize what Kelly's not doing?
Smiling.
She's not smiling with her eyes turned up and in, So the only way you can go into that state, literally go down, is if your eyes go down and inwards, right? Because when you go down and inwards, you're going into the body and you're relaxing the body. But if you're going down and into the body without a smile on your face, all that shit's going to come up and all the stories come up. And this is why I said, I study people when they're at airports. Why do people cry when they're happy, right? Because you're seeing what could have been or should have been or would have been had this story have not have happened, So again, it's the who are you when you're meditating, And you said to me, it happens all the time. There's been times when it hasn't happened, So that's where you have to find and stay anchored in the person that knows that none of that's relevant, So again, this is why when you consciously keep breathing below the navel, right, you're going to be bypassing all the cellular memories and all the programmed associations coming up, which make you get emotional, Does that answer your question, Kelly?
Yeah, I'm just going mute. Yes, it does, I think. Yeah.
So again, remember I said when you do the breathing, you have to keep the smile on your face where the corners of your mouth are going up. You're clearly not doing that, right? And remember the grief and when you cry and all that sort of stuff. Remember I said grief is just the flip side of gratitude, and anger is the flip side of laughter, and fear is the flip side of honor, So when your energies are going into duality, your eye positioning, this is all the NLP and eye tracking stuff, your eyes are going down and in too much. You've got to keep your eyes up and in with a smile on your face. And those pathways, you don't get access to those pathways. You're going down the wrong pathway.
Yeah, that's what it feels. It feels like I start with a smile on my face and it's up.
Yeah.
and it's like beautiful and I'm connected, and then suddenly it just goes,
Exactly. And
okay,
the
that makes
best,
sense.
the best time to practice that is when? The ritual of eating. Every time you put food and something in your mouth, and when you go to sleep with a smile on your face, you wake up with a smile on your face, you're automatically activating the natural pathways. You're not trying to deal with and bypass all the negative stuff, the dualistic stuff. You're just simply putting back what's missing, the natural state, right? You're not dealing with the dualistic stuff, yeah? Like, again, you don't say get rid of the darkness, you just turn the light on, yeah? Makes sense?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
All right, big air hugs with sound effects.
I love it.
See ya.
No.
All right, anything else, anyone, before we call that a wrap?
No, just some further thank yous.
All right, well, Petals is going to say good night. Good night, everyone.
Hang on.
Good night, Coco.
Attack.
So she's dead to the world here on my lap. So, all right. Well,
We'll
thanks
hit the
again,
stop.
everyone. Most grateful for that. Go and have some fun. And go and kick some butt as well, yeah?
Thanks again, Brian. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay tuned.
All right. Good night.